All right, so welcome back to Chapter 4, Project Planning, the Project Infrastructure Part 2. And I've got to tell you, I think that this is one of the most important slides of this entire presentation, and that is talking about the project teams. So when we talk about the project teams, we of course start with the project manager. This is the person that's going to manage the project. And of course, the challenge here is a lot of times the project manager becomes the authority for the project and should over people that they normally don't manage. So consequently, this may be people higher up, if you will, in the organization, and there needs to be that governance in place and the understanding that when it comes to this project, that this person has the authority they need to manage the people, the resources, the attributes, the technology, the whatever it is that's associated with the project. Okay, because realize there's going to be stakeholders that are higher up that are engaged because they're, again, divisional knowledge experts that we need on the project. They're not just going to be IT staff. They're going to be end users. They are going to be managers. They're even going to be vice presidents and CEOs who should be engaged in the project because, again, they have that knowledge of the organizational goals and governance that need to be brought in the program. But suddenly we have this challenge where we have this individual who normally might report to somebody who now, as it again pertains to this project, it creates a real challenge when suddenly someone you might report to or is higher than you on the organizational chart needs to clearly understand that it is your role as the primary leadership of the project. Okay, so what is the project manager's managerial role? Focusing on planning, organizing, controlling. What's the leadership role? Who's invited on and sometimes off the bus so that we can keep the project going? Attributes, of a project manager. I'm going to go over to my slide here. A project manager, she is going to need all of these skills. She's going to need to understand the vision. She's got to be a great communicator, have integrity, okay? Ethics, pretty important, because again, this is the person who might say, you know what? I realize my job relies on this, but what is best for the company is to stop this project and thus stop my income, perhaps, if it's an outsourced person. If it's an in-source person, well, they'll probably go on to another project, okay? That's important. Enthusiasm, passion, getting people on the bus, getting them excited, being a salesperson for the project. Oh, this is going to be great. It's going to meet these needs. We're moving forward. It's great. But also a realist of, wow, we're running into challenges. I need to take these to the project governance audit committee and let them know where our challenges are and get resources on how we either get back on track or again stop the project or delay the project. Let's not forget that, okay? Empathy and compassion. Again, if you've ever worked with a manager that could really care less about your personal challenges and what's going on, you know that affects your work, okay? So it can be empathy as to human resources. It can be compassion in the aspect of someone just had a loss in their life, whatever it could be, and how can we support that person to either keep them on track or invite them off the bus and get someone else so that they can deal with what they need to deal with so that we have that resource in future projects or maybe even later in this project. Competence, of course, ability to delegate, composure. This is a huge stressful, we're talking about multi-million-dollar projects. We've got to be able to have somebody who is cool under fire, if you will, because that governance committee may be coming in because they don't know the challenges, saying, why are we behind? Why are we over budget? Why are we doing that? Da, 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 da. And this project manager needs to be able to stand there, accept that, look at their responsibility, and be, again, honest with what's going on in the project. Team building, problem solving, and as you can understand, if just one of these elements, and these are just a few of the elements, interpersonal skills, great communication, the ability to listen, the ability to communicate. I happen to think servant leadership is a great style, leading from the back of the bus. empowering people on the team to do things. But that also brings a challenge in that, you give enough people rope, they suddenly think they're in charge. And that can be a challenge as well. However, if you don't give them enough, you don't get the creative benefit of what they have to offer the project. So you can see that balance, and that balance changes on a daily basis. Ability to deal with people, ability to create and sustain relationships, ability to organize. The team has to have the technical skills, the business organization and knowledge, the interpersonal skills. They need to have a sense of pride. They need to have a sense of urgency, but not be stressed and not be given a project that can't be completed. Now, I realize that the example I'm about to give is a gender bias, and I don't mean it in that way at all. It's just factual. So my father had shared with me, as it pertains to project management, that although one woman can have a child in 9 months, 9 women on a project cannot produce a child in 1 month. And I think that's a great example, of the fact that there are just time limits to things being done. And the reason I bring this up, and I will cover this in a future lecture, is the idea that we want to make sure we don't actually overstaff the project. Because each time we add one person to the project, an example of communication, it exponentially creates more work as it pertains to communication. So we need to be able to balance, and we need to be able to say, so many people think, oh, if we throw more money, throw more time, throw more resources, we can get it done in half the time. And that, frankly, is not necessarily the case. Okay, so the project team, as it pertains to technology skills, members with specific technology skills, engineers, programmers, systems analysts, network specialists. Let's not forget security folks. Most projects today need to have a focus on security as we're building code. Where are we putting the product? How is it going to be used? Are we using two-factor authentication? Are we making sure passwords are going to be ample based on the data stored, etc., and so forth? And all of these will be required. These may be internal resources, they may be external resources, they may actually be someone we bring in as an outsourced person to get their knowledge to include in the project, and then of course we don't need them anymore. We can sever that contract, if you will. Okay, we may also take our code out and have it looked at by ethical hackers, or have ethical hackers try to break the code or find those vulnerabilities in the code so that we produce good, secure software, especially if this is software that's going out to customers, and is available out on the web to our employees, external customers, whatever the case may be. We definitely need to have business and organizational knowledge, not only from the goals, the missions, and things we've talked about, but that knowledge of what it is we do, how we do it. Because two companies can produce the same product or service, do it in completely different ways, and it is that process that produces the value that our customers recognize and thus do business with us over our competitors. So we need to be able to bring that in. Particular organizational skills or industry, healthcare today, huge projects going on in electronic medical records. We need to have experts in healthcare, experts in HIPAA compliance, experts in medical record software that's available, customization, whatever the case may be. Because again, we can't just have a database engineer and software engineers who don't understand finance building a financial application. It's just not going to work. It won't work every single time, right? So keep that in mind. Interpersonal skills, ability to communicate with other team members. Folks, this is why I force you all to work together in teams in so many classes, because today it is not one person sitting in a dark office who's programming the database, who's building the interface, who tries to understand the company. We are needing to do these projects. We are needing to leverage skills. We are needing to leverage individuals, some with egos, some not. Not only do we have to manage those with egos, but we also have to manage those who are quiet, and we need to bring forth their expertise if they're not willing to share it, and inquire and ask those questions and make sure they're involved and make sure they know their voice can be heard. Okay, so we need to have those interpersonal skills. amongst the entire team. Because again, someone who is siloed and trying to meet just their needs on a project can waylay a project very quickly. And I'm sure you've seen it in meetings where you get that one person who just seems to take over the meeting. And if there's not that leadership to say, hey, thank you for sharing your opinion, but we need to move on, we can waste time again and again and again. So the formal organization, within that plan, publishing those lines of who's responsible for what, who has authority for what reporting relationships do we have, when do those need to be met, how often are we going to report out to the governance, how often are we going to report to people inside the project. We have great project tools with Microsoft Teams, with Slack, etc., to always be documenting things that are in the project, keeping things outside of email when we need to communicate amongst the masses, if you will. And when we get done, having this historical log of a project so that we have that data to refer to on other projects, refer to as we do our auditing, etc. Reporting relationships, definitely important to have just a simple hierarchy chart of who's at the top of the project. And of course, that needs to include who is outside of the immediate project team, the project manager, who's above the project manager, who does the project manager report to? Because remember, sometimes there may be challenges that the project manager brings that we need to have adjusted from a project management standpoint, and we need to go to whoever that person reports to. Communication, 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 so important. One of my favorite sayings is it's something like the greatest challenge to communication is the perception that it has been achieved. So many times, like here, I'm communicating through my voice. The challenge, unfortunately, with an online class is I don't get that student interaction to confirm if what I'm saying resonates with the student and creates the knowledge that I'm trying to disseminate, right? So the greatest challenge to communication is the perception that it has been achieved. Now, I get to assess my students' perception by asking them to communicate with me, give them quizzes, give them homework to see how the lectures worked into them understanding the outcomes, okay? But a lot of times it's about asking that question, what did you just hear me say? Because what someone hears and what you said can be two different things. If you've ever been involved in an interpersonal relationship, you know that to be the fact. And then finally, decision making. Who's making the decisions? What authority, at what level do people have as it pertains to decisions? So this is a great place to stop part 2, because we'll be looking at different ways of organizing project teams within project portfolios for an organization, starting here in our next part. Take care.